This week it's time to head to the high seas as we find out what's going on with Sea of Thieves. Jonny Robot travels back to the 90s to hang out with Jackie Chan on the NES, and we chat to Wargaming about just how Australians have had a major impact on one of the world's largest games. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week we're starting things off with some good news for horror fans. Controversial survival game Outlast 2 was refused classification by the Australian Classification Board, that is, effectively banned from sale and display, due to implied sexualised violence, one of the criteria that is unacceptable under the R18 adults only rating. That happened earlier this month, and it's not the good news, of course. The good news came this week. It turns out we will be getting Outlast 2 after all. It's now been rated R18 and is due out on April 26 for PC, PS4 and Xbox One. The Australian Classification Board database clearly refers to a modified submission, but unlike most other entries in the database, it's actually the submission that's been modified. According to developer Red Barrels, the original submission to the Classification Board included a video file for reference taken from a much earlier version of the game. All of the offensive content was contained within this video, which, as it happens, is not reflective of the final game and should never have been included. The second submission featured exactly the same game code, in fact the version that's already been approved by the UK's PEGI and Germany's USK, as well as an updated video file showing the new content. It has been given an R18, contains high-impact horror themes, violence, blood, gore and sex, and you can rest easy, horror fans. There is only one version of Outlast 2, and it has not been censored, modified or watered down for Australian audiences. In other news, remember how those rumours were doing the rounds about a revamped release of the original StarCraft? Turns out they're all true! Blizzard has confirmed StarCraft Remastered, a shiny new version of the essential sci-fi strategy experience. You can expect remastered graphics, revised dialogue and audio, and standard Blizzard friends and matchmaking. There are new illustrated interludes to expand the storylines, but rest assured, the classic StarCraft gameplay we fell in love with nearly 20 years ago has been left untouched. That does bring us to our next point though, Battle.net is no more. Blizzard's online service is now officially simply known as Blizzard. The app works in exactly the same way, but after 2 decades it is a little jarring to see a different icon on the taskbar. And while we're talking online services, it's a pretty special time for GOG.com, with GOG Galaxy officially out of beta testing. The client now features universal cloud saves, the addition of a hibernate mode, bandwidth limiting and scheduling, a new notification system and updated chat, and a stack of new customization options. The 1.2 update is available now for anyone who opted in to test upcoming updates and will be rolling out to everybody in April. Moving on, someone sat down and worked out just how much it would cost to acquire everything unlockable in For Honor, and it adds up to one hell of a price tag. Here's the numbers. It costs 91,500 steel to unlock all of the base game customizations for one hero. That is skins, emotes, execution moves, ornaments, and that sort of thing. There are currently 12 heroes in-game, which means you'd need nearly 1.1 million steel to unlock everything. You can buy steel for real-world money, $5,000 to about $5 US, so to get every piece of unlockable content you would need to fork over $732 on top of the money you originally spent to buy the game. If you want to earn stuff in-game, you'd have to play for a couple of hours each day, and it'll still take you about 2.5 years as long as you complete all of the daily missions. Ubisoft has responded, saying that basically the game has been designed for players to pick a favourite character, or maybe two, and then work to unlock content for that hero rather than all of them. Destiny 2 was one of the worst kept secrets in gaming, but now we don't have to pretend we don't know it's happening. Images popped up online this week showing posters and artwork allegedly leaked from GameStop Italy, and before long the game's official Twitter account was updated with an undeniable teaser image. Besides the title, which is Destiny 2, Activision and Bungie haven't really revealed too much about the game, although conspiracy theorists are having a field day spotting details in that official picture.
This one dude's all, "Raw!" So I shot him, and then I shot this other one. Shot a couple extra guys just to be safe. I did a lot of shooting, if I'm being totally honest.
In quick news, Blizzard is extremely open-minded about releasing a map editor for Overwatch someday, and even has scheduled some time to explore the idea, as well as the idea of opening custom games to the public through something like a server browser. But the studio does warn fans this won't happen anytime soon, so hold on to your idea of letting Zarya run around DE Dust for a little while. There's some fun stuff on the rumour mill this week, including the next Call of Duty on the way from Sledgehammer. From the sounds of things, Activision may have done away with both the modern and the futuristic settings, taking us back, again, with this simply titled Call of Duty World War II. The hype train is also chugging along over the idea of a new Pokemon for Nintendo Switch. Again, it's something that seems inevitable, but still pretty exciting. Game Freak is officially hiring new console developers looking for people with experience in both Nintendo Wii and PlayStation Vita to work on an RPG game that is popular on a global scale. And speaking of Nintendo, the company has come out and explained exactly what caused that nasty Joy-Con wireless issue. Since launch, gamers have complained about sync issues with the left Switch Joy-Con, prompting the company to release a statement advising gamers not to use the console in interference-prone areas, including near wireless devices, microwaves, and fish tanks. Turns out, unlike that kickstand charger problem, the Joy-Con issue is not a design fault on Nintendo's part. Instead, the company says it has to do with manufacturing variation. The variation has now been addressed and corrected at the factory level, and there will be no major proactive repair or replacement effort. That said, Nintendo might fix your faulty controller if you contact them and can verify that the issue is not due to something you've done. In fact, you could probably even attempt the fix yourself. Believe it or not, it's a simple matter of adding a tiny piece of conductive foam to a specific spot inside the Joy-Con, which protects the gadget's tiny antenna, solving your problem. For more information on any of these stories, or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
What's up guys, I'm Jonny Robot and today we are jumping in our metaphorical time machine and heading back to a bygone era called the 1990s. Ah, what a simpler time it was. MC Hammer had a career, Pogs were the preferred schoolyard currency, and the NES, well, it was king. Nintendo's little grey box had its fair share of certified gems, but we're not looking at any of those today. Oh no. We're looking at Jackie Chan's action kung fu registered trademark. Man, it just rolls off the tongue. As an avid fan of Mr. Chan, I know Jackie doesn't just whip out the old kung fu for no reason. So what's his noble cause in this game? Saving an orphanage from a criminal cult? Stopping international terrorists? Fighting a mecha Bruce Lee? Nothing so paltry. A Bowie-loving wizard ruined his Sunday stroll, hit him with a lightning bolt, and blinked his woman out of the NES's available memory. That, my friends, is just cause to action kung fu if ever I saw one. Sticking to the tried and true Jackie Chan formula, and seeing this is on the NES, you are placed in the position of ultimate underdog. You've got 5 stages to clear and 3 lives in which to do it. In games from this era, mechanics and controller input will make or break a game. Games were short, so difficulty often tended to be rather brutal, or what nostalgic fools like me call NES hard. It's what separated games by LJN from say something like Ninja Gaiden. As long as the game obeys its own rules and faithfully responds to your sweaty thumbs, it's often your fault you died, and not the game's. Jackie Chan passes this test. See me getting hit? That's on me. I am goofing hard. Seeing as Jackie is only a man going toe-to-toe with ninjas, ancient deities, and what seems like the entire animal kingdom, the game throws us a bone. Super moves. And even better, you get to kick him out of frogs, just like in real life. Even with the ability to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon a boss to death, the game will beat you silly. This is due mainly to being swarmed by enemies and the fact that you don't get invincibility frames, a combo crueler than curry and prune juice. But a game is more than the sum of its mechanics, so let's talk visuals. Look at this, just look. The sprite work here is gorgeous, and the animations, whew, like butter. Look at Jackie. That man is capable of displaying like 3 whole emotions. That's 3 more than Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid, and that came out 8 years later and on a 32-bit console. On top of that, the palette choice is on point, which ties back to the mechanics. The colours chosen are often complementary, meaning everything just pops, meaning you never lose sight of Jackie or the numerous things hell-bent on ruining your day further. If it wasn't obvious, I really dig this game. It's bright, it's colourful, wonderfully animated, and it's as hard as a concrete walnut. For the NES, this game was leaps and bounds ahead of many other games on the market, which made a lot of sense as this was the console's twilight years. The Super Nintendo was a year out from hitting store shelves in the West, and most developers were already jumping ship. Whilst there are many games where you perpetually move right, serving up knuckle sandwiches, this one is one of my favourites. This was also the last time we would see Jackie Chan appear on a home console until well into the 32-bit era. And as for those crazy kids over at Hudson Soft, well, they kept on keeping on, making many other underrated gems. But that's a story for another day. I've been Jonny Robot, and this has been Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu, registered trademark.
So Sea of Thieves is a shared world adventure game, and so if that was an acronym, it would be a SWAG, and we're particularly happy with that, right? Yeah. But what we mean by that is that, like, you're in a shared world, which means that it's like you, your crew, so like a bunch of friends going on an adventure. But if you see a kind of set of sails on the horizon, like, what you know is that that's another crew of real players, and you don't really know what their intent is. And that's kind of the magic and the vision of our game, that you're going to be going on these adventures in these fantastical world full of kind of skeletons and krakens and sharks and mermaids and on treasure hunts, on quests. But at the same time, there's always going to be this presence of other players in the world, and you're not really sure what they want. And it's kind of that moment that you see in a pirate film or a naval film, where there's someone looking through the kind of telescope and they see the set of sails, and it's like, oh, who is that? Like, you don't know, right? And that's what we want. You don't want to know their intent, and we always want those kind of moments to be really memorable and unique, and so that, like, no two adventures are going to be the same in our game.
Hi, everybody. Oh, hello. Here we are. Stay back, ye foul beasts.
This is what's great about Sea of Thieves, is that it kind of satisfies a wide range of player motivations. You might want to just go out into the world and just, like, hunt people down and battle them. You might want to just kind of have a party boat, right, and just get the musical instruments out, have a bit of a jam, have a bit of a sing, get drunk, and just kind of have a laugh, right? It's a really good social time. Or maybe you do want to go out and kind of start exploring the world, or looking for treasure and trying to return things to a port and upgrade your ship. But we really want to satisfy a really wide range of player motivations with this game.
So what can you actually do in this shared world? You obviously, you've got to keep your eye on the horizon for those sails that might pop up. You can go down the pub. Yeah. What else can you do? Can you build stuff?
You can't build things as such. You can very much, like, it's kind of like be the pirate you want to be is kind of the phrase that we and so it's almost that, like, anything you think you should be able to do as a pirate, you should be able to do in Sea of Thieves. And this is when I talk about those different motivations. Like, we want players to kind of set their own goals. So whether you just want to take on quests that are kind of set for you, and you know that you're going to get rewards, and then you can take those rewards, you can spend them on upgrading your ship and buying kind of more powerful cannons, or like upgrading the hull, or maybe you just want to make it look better and really stand out in the world. And And for us, like, our game doesn't have like a legendary pirate like Blackbeard or a legendary ship like the Black Pearl. But what we want is for players to become the legendary pirates of our game, and the ships that the players have been using and the stories that they've had to lead to them becoming famous within the game and within the community. Right? That's kind of our vision for the game.
Is there any world persistence? So if you've set up this great reputation for yourself and then you have to go to bed, you know, and not come back for a little while, what happens when you come back to the game?
Reputation is persistent regardless, right? Especially like and I think reputation is as much out of the game as in, like, because like I say, within community, within the players that are playing it, they're going to kind of build up the people that they care about, right? It's what we see on Twitter, it's what we see on YouTube, and so we expect, like, you know, our community to build up players outside of any maybe mechanics that we put into the game. So, you know, in that sense, the community is always persistent, right?
Okay, Mike, you're repairing, right?
We're sinking. Oh, dude, we're gonna drown. It's water down here. What do we do? What do we do? I don't know. Bail. We're screwed. We sank up, yeah.
There's a word that hasn't been mentioned, an acronym that hasn't been mentioned, which is an MMO.
Yeah.
How does this compare to a massively multiplayer online world?
So our experience is much more personal than this. We personally, and purposefully, have made it so it's about small groups of players working really cooperatively together with shared rewards, shared goals. And because once you get above 5 or 6 people on a ship, it can start getting maybe a bit fractured and the relationships aren't as close. Whereas when it's a smaller group of players, it's really personal. It's like you and me talking here, right? But in the game. Whereas if there was 10 or 12 of us here, like, I'd be talking to a few of you, they'd be talking to a few of you. You know what I mean? And so it's much more personal, and it's about you guys going on an adventure in that world together, but then there's the potential to encounter other crews and have really interesting reactions. Yes, it's a much more personal experience than an MMO, and it's not going to follow a traditional, like, I don't know, I'm just going to upgrade myself to level 80 and just be pursuing that and grinding. Like, we want a much wider range of kind of motivations to meet, really.
No! There's a ship to the left.
Oh my god.
They're going down, yeah!
What's critical about this game is how players play in our world. It's going to be as interesting as the features that we put in, right? So we want to get it in their hands early, but we're going to be much more open and transparent with our community than we have been before from this point onwards. So, like, if you're interested, if you really care about kind of finding out more, finding out when it's available, it's like, get involved, get on Twitter, get on the forums at seaofthieves.com. Like, no, but this is genuinely, that's where we're going to be communicating and talk to people. We're not just going to go, hey, we're going to have a beta in, like, this date, and then, because all I know is that date will be wrong, right? And, because no one ever hits their dates, right? And, I just want to start being much more open and transparent like that with the community and bring them on that journey with us, really. But absolutely our goal to get it in their hands as soon as we can.
Littlefield was shipping in the tank into America once every week, and then he passed away and had the largest private collection in the world. That left the family with a lot of tanks that they needed to work out what to do with, and most of those we were planned to go to the museum, but shipping that many tanks to a museum cost a lot of money. So they started to sell a couple of the tanks off to private market, so that would generate the funds to ship the rest off to the museum. And during that situation, we managed to pick up the Sentinel tank and got that shipped from America across to here. I was mainly in charge of the shipping of the tank, so getting that beast up onto the trucks and across the USA, and then onto a ship and freighted over to here, and then through customs was a challenge. One of the regulations of getting anything through Australian customs, as you can imagine, because Australia's an agricultural country, so they don't want any weeds or seeds or anything, or bugs or anything like that being introduced into the country. So one of the requirements is pretty much filling it with water and then seeing clean water coming out the tank. And when the tank's a solid like bathtub, it just doesn't leak water, no. So drilling holes in the tank to meet the customs requirements was part of the job. But we did a lot of repair work to the tank. It was in quite a rusty, debilitated state when we first came across it. Part of bringing the tank back home was to also put it in the game, so players could go to Cairns Museum and view the tank, or play it inside the game itself. The tank's reasonable mid-tiered, but we also have the AC4 that we introduced to the game a couple of months later, which is the Sentinel's big brother, with a 17-pounder gun, etc. So they're quite different tanks. It doesn't excel in any particular area because it's a good all-rounder tank. So when you have to compete against tanks that are bigger in your weight, being an all-rounder is a little bit difficult because there's no one thing that you excel in that you can fall back onto. But that's also fairly historical as well, because also at the time the Germans started to pump out the Tigers, so it was unmatched in that area as well. The majority of our players are senior historians or middle-aged militaria, so they have the culture of the military history. So we have military specialists for each office, and that's a position within our company, and their job is to go and get historical records for each tank that we're putting into the game to make sure that we get everything historically accurate as we can.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, we're paying a visit to our friends at Oz Comic Con Adelaide and checking out some of the best smartphone games made right here in Australia. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Also, if you want to support Player Attack, you can find us on Patreon and help us bring you the latest in gaming news, plus all these wonderful interviews and reviews from the world of video games. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.